Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar. Super excited for today's episode. I have the best-selling author of Master Your Mindspace and the founder of Pathcutters, and he helps people access their inner wisdom so they can live the life of their dreams. Very excited today to be talking to Michael Atma. Hey, Michael, you ready to rock?
I'm ready to go, Tim.
Perfect. So let's start off on a good note. Tell me a story of success in your life or your business that we can be inspired by.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think the biggest success that I had was when I first got started. So I was working a full-time job, doing a sales job. I was micromanaged, stressed to the max, and I decided I'd had enough of that lifestyle. So I just got home one night, wrote down, what do I really want to do with my life? And it just boiled down to this simple fact. I wanted to create a business where I worked from home. I hated going to the office. I hated being micromanaged. I hated having a boss, just all of it. And I've lost weight and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I wrote this down on a piece of paper. That was all that came out. And then it just dawned on me, I could do this, but what do I do? How do I go ahead and create this dream? And that led me then to thinking, well, online is the space where almost anything can happen if you get really good at it. But I knew nothing of online. So I just started then doing some courses online to learn how to make money online. And as it turned out, I developed a whole bunch of skills that were really easy to sell into local businesses. And I ended up creating a business on the side while I was working full time, where I was helping people build websites, drive traffic to the websites, do some SEO, paid advertising, getting found, in search engines. And I got really good at that stuff. And within 6 months, I was out of my full-time job, had a full-time wage coming in, and I was growing my business in leaps and bounds.
Awesome. So you built your business on the side then while you were working a job?
Yes, I didn't have the confidence to jump out of my work, A, because I had no savings, and B, because it just would have put extra stress on me.
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend that everybody does that actually but like, I mean, I actually ended up getting laid off and didn't want to go back to a job because I hated cubicles and all the same things that you said. I wanted to work from home. But yeah, it's a lot more stressful to have to try to make ends meet while you're trying to build a business at the same time. And it's just, sometimes you might come off as a little bit desperate, I guess, sometimes, right? So if you've got that backup income, then you're fine, right?
Yeah, look, I had enough income. I could have probably done it, but I had 6 months worth of savings, but to me, that just wasn't a big enough safety net, because I wanted a bigger one. That's why I worked on the side. And, I was working evenings, I was working weekends. Basically, I had no time, but I got to say that, for me, the big takeaway for me is that you've got to be willing to invest in yourself. And if that means stretching for a little while, I don't believe that you have to hustle to make a living at all. I don't anymore. I work 4-hour days now, but back then I had to hustle because to make it work, to make my dream work, I had to really step it up and be uncomfortable for a while. But it was well worth it, tremendously worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny how and I see a bunch of books in the background there, but I mean, so many people, as soon as they get out of school, they never read another book in their life. And if you want to be self-employed, if you want to have a business, then you're going to have to keep on learning, because as we can see even with this COVID thing, things just keep changing and you need to adapt to that, right?
Well, the key, you're absolutely right. And it's not just about adapting, that's one thing, but what reading books does is it nourishes our mind, and it starts to reinforce, and especially if you read personal development books or books of stories or autobiographies of people who have really done something tremendously, beautiful with their lives or empowering with their lives. I've read just about every autobiography of anybody that succeeded at anything. I don't care what it is, cooking, climbing mountains, because these people, they've tapped into something that ordinary people simply don't tap into because they haven't needed to. Mm-hmm. And that inspires me, but also it's creating a new foundational belief system inside you that I can do this too. Yes, I can. So the mantra became for me, yes, I can. Even though obstacles came up and hurdles came up, all this reinforcing of reading these personal development books and these transformation stories of people that went from rags to riches, or people that went from struggle to success. It keeps building those empowering belief systems inside you, rather than the limiting, defeating beliefs that we're all familiar with, that we grow up within our culture. It's just embedded in our culture.
Yeah, well, and that makes sense to me because when you're reading a book and even when you're watching a movie, technically, or listening to anything, you sort of put yourself in that hero role. Or at least
Yeah.
I do. I don't know if you do. Maybe that's just me and that's not everybody, but I would assume that it's everybody that kind of puts themselves in that role. So you're almost experiencing it on a subconscious level, which
Yeah.
would definitely lead into your real life, right?
Yeah, it does. I call it imprinting. You're imprinting a new mindset as you read. So I read, I can read now a book in a week, and I started out reading a book a month, and now I'm up to a book a week. And
Wow.
and it might sound a lot, but it's not. And actually, it's not just reading the book. I take notes and I implement the core takeaways that I get from that particular book. Like the book I'm reading right now is called The Essentialism, or The Essentialist, I think it is, Essentialism or Essentialist, but it's fantastic. So but I'm implementing what I'm learning as I go through. I do all that in a week. And it's
Wow.
just like you read 30 pages a day or 40 pages a day. It's not that difficult. You just schedule it in and it gets
Absolutely.
easier and easier.
Well, and you just replace something because I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of time watching, soap type TV, right? And why? Why do you need to watch that? I mean, everything that you put into your mind is food. Really, it's like eating junk food or putting that
Well,
junk in the
and
brain.
while I was building my business, this was essential because I didn't have the mindset of an entrepreneur. I was a business, I was an employee. So I had an employee mindset. I had no clue about running a business, no clue about scaling a business, no clue about delegating, no clue about finances. I just got paid a wage for doing a job. And so I was upskilling by reading books and listening to a podcast while I'm driving around in my sales job. I was listening to podcasts, Tony Robbins and podcasts
Yeah.
every single day, podcasts that were about business success, people that went from a job, to working from home. I listened to them every single day, 2 hours a day while I'm reading my books. And it's just reinforcing the same patterns. And eventually something sticks, it sticks when you take the right action, when you take action on what you're listening to and what you're learning, it just sticks. It starts to stick.
Yep. Yep. Well, no. So that leads to the next point, which is, when you're taking a lot of action, from time to time, you're going to hit a bad note and
Yeah.
something's just not going to work the way that you expected it to. So can you share with us, maybe some sort of, a bad note, something that happened that was a mistake or, something like that you learned from and something that we could either avoid or maybe how we can recover from it if it happens to us?
Yeah, look, I've got quite a few instances of mistakes. I consider I failed massively in a lot of areas. But look, in one of my businesses, I've got 3 businesses at the moment, and I've built 7 over the last 15 years. Sold off a couple, but I never had that skill. So one of the failings that I did, or one of the big things that I got hit with initially, was trying to build too quickly and also putting all my eggs in one basket. So as I'm trying to build really quickly, when I started to get a lot of success coming in quite quickly, cash flow, I call success cash flow. I had a lot of cash flow coming in really quickly. And I was making a lot of that money from SEO. And then SEO, I don't know if you know much about it, but SEO is kind of dependent on Google, and Google's always changing the algorithm. But back then, it was quite simple to get people to the front page of Google, which meant that their leads and their sales increased. But then Google started making some really, really big changes in their algorithms. And so because almost all my customers, say 70% of my customers I had them paying like ongoing cash flow from SEO, all of a sudden they all lost rankings. Overnight, they got up one morning, all gone. All the rankings that we'd worked years to get these people into positions of, all gone, front page gone. So, of course, and we couldn't get them back because what had Google had done had just killed the work we did. So we basically started from scratch. So that was 70% of my income dropped overnight, and I had massive outgoings. So that was like waking up and going, pretty much, you got 2 choices here: close the door, tuck the tail between your legs, go find another job, or pivot. And I didn't understand pivoting then, but pivot was, what else? What can I do to not lose my business and to keep my customers happy? But what had happened during that time is I'd outsource a lot of the work for these customers with virtual assistants. And so we had a really big pool of virtual assistants that were doing a lot of work for us in the background for our customers. And we had a meeting and we just talking about this and going, hey, we've got like 50 outsourcers working for various companies doing various jobs that they don't even know are getting done for them. What if we talk to these customers to see if there's any other work that our outsourcers or virtual assistants could be doing for our customers, while we're working to see if we can get their rankings back. So we did. We rang them all up, and honestly, now I've got moving almost an 8-figure a year business out of outsourcing. I've got a huge office in the Philippines. I got over 400 staff over there now, and it's booming. This business is growing like 20-30% per year, because we found a solution that many people would have just collapsed and probably gone on medication and given up, and even got suicidal. I know people in this. I've a lot of people that just, it really kills them on the inside. But that's not the spirit that I live with. I live with there's always a way. And even if I did lose it all, I'd still be okay, because I have that mindset now that life's not just about money, and it's not just about business. But you know what? I love business and I love helping people. So that meant that I had to find a way, because this is what I love to do.
Yep, right on. So now, one of the things we talk about here is getting good at what you do. It's practicing. I mean, you can't go out on stage unless you actually have practiced what it is that you're about to do. And it sounds to me like you'd be a perfect person to talk about this, because as you mentioned in the beginning, you didn't really know which direction you were going to go. You just started to learn a whole bunch of things. So, imagine someone's, starting a business and they're getting ready to go and they want to get good at something. What would you suggest? How would they go about practicing and getting good at what they do?
Well, okay. So step one is they need to have a really clear vision of where it is they're headed. What's their dream? That's the first place to start. Because what's the point in practicing something? Like, you've got a lot of musical instruments in the background. What's the point in practicing a musical instrument if you're not passionate about it, and B, if there's not, like, you've got this vision of what you're going to do with that, even if it's just to be the best version of a guitar player or a musician that you can be. But you've got to have a vision of where you're headed and why you want to do something. I call it your purpose. Know what is your purpose? What are you really here to do? And then straight away, if you've got purpose, if you've got a vision, you're going to have passion, because now it's something you're passionate about. So again, practicing anything's just a waste of time. If it's like the child being forced to play the violin. When they're young, I had a friend that was forced to play the violin, has never played the violin since he left home, hates it with a passion because he was forced to practice. We don't want to be forced to practice. We want to look forward to practicing. We want to make it a part of our daily rituals, because we love to do it, because it's a part of our, who we are, and we enjoy what we do with the practice. So number two is you need to be passionate about it, something you're really passionate about. Number three, and this is the big one, you have to be committed to achieving excellence at it. You have to be committed to embodying it. I call it embodying it. Whatever it is you're practicing, public speaking, getting customers, making money. Choose something that you want to practice to get really good at, that's going to make a difference in your life. It's going to be, I call it the one thing. There's a book by, I think it's Gary Keller, called The One Thing. Everyone should read that, because if you just do the one thing that's going to make the most difference in your life and practice that, then everything else is going to get pulled up with it, is how that works. So you focus on that one thing. And for me, the one thing that I practiced the most was working on myself, and I still do. I invest in myself every day. So I practice working on myself through meditation, through reading, through listening to podcasts, through growing my mindset, through clearing my mind, through coming back to who I am. And that's what I practice every day, is being really centered, clear, focused, and knowing where I'm headed. So that would be the three big things. So the embodiment of it will come if you really commit. Commitment is the big word. Stay committed to where you're headed, to the practice. Most people forget about commitment, and commitment takes discipline. Discipline, to me, is the missing link in why most people fail at being an entrepreneur or working from home. They just quit. They give up. They stop practicing. They stop practicing upgrading their mindset. They stop practicing the behaviors that are going to help them to create cash flow and to get customers and to grow their business and to have a lifestyle that they dreamed of. It all takes commitment, and commitment means you don't stop until you get it. You don't stop until you get to where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I can think of so many analogies with music, and like I can remember when I was first starting to learn guitar, and one of the things I never, I mean, I ended up playing a lot of music and doing a lot of shows, but in the beginning, all I wanted to do was I pictured myself playing guitar at the beach,
Yeah,
and having a bunch of people singing along with me, and I thought that would be a lot of fun. So I had that vision, and then the pain that you have to go through to get to the point where you can actually even play a song,
yeah,
there's quite a bit of work involved in that. But that was okay because I always sort of had that vision of where I was going. And I think that's what you're saying, is that you've got to be able to see yourself in that final role and go, yeah, this is something that I would really love to do. And then that kind of just pulls you towards it, right? And then the other part of it is, you mentioned, all the personal growth that you're doing, and that's super important, because if you're not in the mood to play, you're not always going to be in the mood to play, and it doesn't just magically come. It
yeah,
comes through sometimes putting on a song that you could picture yourself playing, right? And that's one of those things, right? You kind of go like, oh, now I'm motivated to play. So, I'm sort of hearing you say that, when you've got your goal, and then all of a sudden you have to put something into your mind that makes you feel excited about it. And then you can go ahead and do that practice work, and it's not as painful because you can sort of see the end in mind, right?
yeah, exactly. And part of that visioning of it, like you said, visioning yourself playing it, part of that, and also, yeah, like what you're talking about now, is changing your state, your energetic state, going from pain to pleasure, in a sense, going from I don't want to yes, I will. Really, the battle, we have an internal battle, all of us, going on between our default ego system, which is I'm not good enough, I'm never going to make it, it's never going to work for me, it's too hard, I'm not smart enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not pretty enough, whatever, whatever. And this, in the days of Insta famous, that's what people are thinking.
Mhm.
And that's like I call that our inner critic. So there's a battle raging inside almost every one of us between our inner critic, but the part of us that is that is like, I call it the light, the part of us that is just so bright, so shiny, so filled with wonder of life that nothing could possibly stop us. And we need to learn the difference between the inner critic and our intuitive self, or what I call our inner self, the real us, that isn't damaged, isn't broken, isn't wounded, isn't pushed down by what's happened in their life. There is that spark inside all of us that we can like light up, that we can fan that flame, and it becomes our life. And that the only criteria that we need to do to follow to make that happen is to follow our passions and follow our heart and follow our joy. Some say follow your bliss, but it's just to follow what lights you up. And then all that other stuff, all the dark stuff, all the darkness, all the heaviness, all the struggles, all the pain, all the past, that literally will get dissolved by the joy of life that we find ourselves now moving towards in a consistent basis.
Yeah. Yeah. And as with anything, as you practice that, you just get better.
Exactly.
It just is what it is. So it's one of
Yeah.
those things. And then once you start to get better, then it just starts to light you up even more. And you may hit hurdles along the way, but you keep moving forward, you keep getting better, and eventually you do get there, right?
Well, and yeah, it's like you get up in the morning and, part of you says, I don't want to, whatever that is. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't
Yep.
want to pick up the guitar. I don't want to, turn on my computer. You get that voice there. But what you learn as you become more mindful and more self-aware, it's really about self-awareness is the most empowering thing we can do for ourselves. Without awareness, we're just lost in this default mechanism called the ego, the conditioned mind. And now we're just a puppet being pulled around by our emotions and our thoughts. And we're not really living. The true meaning of life that I've found is that we need to be aware of, we have a choice. When that voice comes up and says, I don't want to, I just don't feel like it. Step one, say yes to it. Don't fight it, because it's already there. So we just go, okay. And then I found that by saying yes to that voice and not beating yourself up, feeling guilty, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Instead of judging that voice, we just go yes to it. And we go, okay, I won't. And you don't. And guess what? In 5 or 10 minutes time,
It
that is
passes.
gone. It
Yeah.
passes.
Yeah. That's so cool that you're saying that, because I do that as well. I mean, when I don't feel like doing something, I just sit with it for a minute. And
Exactly.
you know what? I think you're right, because I think that a lot of people will feel really uncomfortable with that voice, and then all of a sudden they sort of go into pattern of like you say, following your thoughts. I don't even think it's following your thoughts. It's following other people's thoughts and other people's, and all of a sudden you're checking your phone and you're looking at whatever, but I mean, if you just say, I don't feel like doing that, so I'm just going to sit here, and eventually you just get bored of sitting there and then you want to go and do it. Right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because that voice, that judgmental voice inside us, you're right, it's not our voice. It comes from our childhood, and it comes from all the voices that said to us, you're not good enough. You're never going to make it. Just get a job, settle down, get married, have kids. All the stuff that we should be doing. That's the inner critic, is the should part of us.
Yep.
And it's like a 2-year-old. If you tell a 2-year-old no, the 2-year-old's going to throw a tantrum, and that's basically what's going on inside ourselves. And if we want to stop our inner child from having a tantrum and then pushing harder against us, we just go, it's okay. You don't want to, then don't. Yep. And that's it.
Yep.
And be okay with that. And guess what? A few moments later, that just shifts. You don't have to make it shift. You don't have to force yourself to do something. It's like you said, all of a sudden it's like, I'm bored now.
Yep.
Okay, now I've got energy again. Now that voice is gone. Oh, what do I want to do? Now we get to choose. That's the awareness part.
Yep.
Now we get to choose which voice we empower. So now what is your intuition saying? Yep. I'm a big believer in live by your intuition. I live it. Every course that I create now, like I haven't even talked about the new business that I created starting 7 years ago in personal development and transformation, which is going absolutely crazy now, growing so fast, because it's my passion. And I'm running retreats, I'm doing coaching, I'm working with people all around the world, helping them to transform their lives from the inside out. But the key is awareness. I'm helping people just to become more aware of their intuition, their inner voice, their inner knowing, versus what I call the mechanism, which is everything we're taught to believe or think about ourselves.
Yep, I totally agree. So now let's go back here. So when you first decided you wanted to work from home, you did want to work from home, which is cool. I want to talk about how to set up a good jam room, a good home office, but also I was wondering was there anything that kind of surprised you as being harder than it seemed about working from home as well?
Yes. I guess the hardest thing for me when working with someone was the distractions, and just doing what I needed to be doing when I was first starting out. Because yes, there's TV and there's the dogs, and there's going for walks, and there's just like getting out of work mode was very, very easy for me in the beginning to get distracted. And that was hard. I love working from home, but then also it was home. It's like one part of you going, but it's home. You should be relaxing. You should be enjoying yourself. And then you've got all this work, and you've got phone calls going on. You got customers talking. You're in front of your computer. And a part of me is going, yeah, but now it feels like I'm back in a business again. I've got a job again. And that's when I started realizing that working from home, you've got to create an environment. For me anyway, I had to create an environment that was both separate from home. So I've got this space I'm in now. This is my office. I don't do anything else in here but work. I run my entire business from this space. I'm a multi-million-dollar business, and I run it from a room.
Right on, yeah.
But that's when I go outside the room, I completely forget about it. Completely, it's not there. And I've got my life so scheduled now, and I've delegated to the point where 90% of everything I do gets done for me in the background by others. And so but at first it wasn't like that, and I struggled. I really struggled working from home because I wasn't disciplined. I didn't have the habit of working from home. I had the habit of living at home, and so that was the big one. Just changing my mindset around. If this doesn't work, then I don't get paid, and I have to go back to a job.
Yep. I found like the way that I explain that, it would be like it's boundary issues really when it comes down to it. Like you fall into either one or both of the pattern of working too much because your work is always there, or not working enough. and for me, it was both. I would, a few days it'd be like working, and like it'd be all around the clock because it was always there. And then it'd be like, oh, I feel like cleaning now. My house was spotless, and I hate cleaning, but it was spotless during some times because I just didn't feel like it. So yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying. You've got to create that space so that, it is an office, so that when you get into that place, you're in state and you're ready to go, right?
Yeah, and that's the way. That's the best way to put it. I like that analogy of boundaries. It's very true. Yeah, I've got to put boundaries on yourself. You have to be. You have to really, in a sense, step up and decide or choose that when I'm working, I'm working. So I'm on. When I'm not working, I'm not working. I've got to the point now where my office actually is this. I can literally be anywhere in the world. Like I study martial arts. I practice martial arts every day. It's one of the things I practice. One of the other things I practice. And I was doing a martial arts seminar for 4 days last week, and I was running my business by this while I was doing
Beautiful.
it.
Yeah.
Because now I'm to the point where I've got my boundaries are so tight that I have my phone on airplane mode half the day.
Yep.
I don't even answer it because I don't want to and I don't need to. So, but again, I had to create boundaries around that rather than get distracted by social media, rather than get distracted by, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Focus to me is one of the main things that helps us succeed in life. With people are so unfocused now; they're just so distracted.
Yeah.
And that's again because they don't have a clear vision of why they're doing what they're doing or where they're headed even. But the moment we have focus and we prioritize things and we don't, and we get really sincere about that, and we don't let ourselves off the hook, then that's when things start to change really rapidly in our business anyway.
Yep. And I think if you have good boundaries as well, like, cause I know that like a lot of people, including myself, when I started working from home, it was all about freedom. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to have to answer to anybody. And then you end up in your business and now you're answering to everybody, but I think that that's where the boundaries come into play, because that doesn't mean that you have to work a certain amount of time. You can be flexible. You can set your boundaries that you work for a few hours in the morning and then you take the whole afternoon off and then you work some in the evening. It doesn't matter what you set. You just have to make sure that those boundaries are clear on when you're working and when you're not working, and you get the flexibility to choose that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I just created a program. I created an online academy for people called the Evolve Academy that helps people to transform their lives. Mm-hmm. And now that took 9 months. I'm just finishing that now, so it'll be finished in the next 2 weeks. And I've got my first bunch of students come through it. I'm going to take a month off after that because I can, and that's a boundary. I've worked 9 months working till like 8 o'clock at night. Working through the day, training, teaching, coaching. Also developing content. So it's been a really big process because I've been teaching and training in it while I've been developing it. I'm a big believer of you put people into things as you're developing it. I'm far more passionate about creating when I've got real people that are doing stuff that I'm creating with, I don't believe in creating something and then trying to fill the space, because that doesn't work for me anymore. I used to do that. I spent 6 months creating this amazing program. Guess what? Nobody wanted it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and you're not the first person that's been on this show that has said that. Like it's just common that, and then the other thing is that it'll hold you back too, because you'll wait till it's perfect. I just got to finish this last little bit. It'll never end. I mean, and you don't even know, like you say, you don't even know if they're going to want it,
That's right. Yeah. So I did that once, never again. Now, everything I do, I create. I'm actually creating it as I go along. So I'm only 1 week ahead of my students in terms of where the academy is at. But guess what? While I've been doing that, I've been refining it by working with them. I'm learning from them while they're learning from me. And everybody's getting the best of both worlds. And now, in 2 weeks, I'll have a finished product that I can resell over and over and over and over again, that I don't have to create again.
Yeah. You can fine tune it as you go. Like when one lesson is going, you probably end up having like Q&As, and you find out,
Exactly.
Okay, that's my next module now, right?
Yeah, and that's a really good message to share with people listening. Is you don't have to get it right. You don't even have to get it perfect. You just got to get it going, but you have to have some kind of format structure in place of where you're headed. But at the same time, be malleable enough to be able to shift and create what people are asking you for, or what they really need, by whatever your skills or talents or experience is, or what you're teaching.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Because I mean, you've got like anybody who's about to create a course of some sort, they have a specific skill, and the people that are looking at them and wanting to buy it don't have that skill yet. So you know that you have something that you can share with them, and knowing exactly what to say and how to do it, that'll come as they ask you questions. But but there's no, like, I think that there's a lot of like fear or maybe doubt in people's minds of going like, but do I really have what it takes to teach this? If you've, if you're a guitar player, you can play a few songs. There's always somebody who's just a beginner, and then it goes all the way up the scale because there's always going to be someone better than you are as well. So it doesn't matter how good you are. There's always a course you can take. So wherever you are on your path, just start there, and there's going to be someone that's going to want to know where you're at and how to get there, right?
And a really good analogy of that, like you only need to be like 2% or 5% better at something than someone else to be able to share something that they don't know. And that's the key. If they know more than you, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to work with you. Why would they? But I worked with a lady who was an heiress in Hong Kong. I was coaching her for a while, and she was an heiress. She was worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, her mum was, but she was the one running the business now. She was like 36, and she was taking over from her mum, incredibly rich. And anyway, so she found me somehow, and I ended up coaching her. Now, I wasn't an heir. I'm not an heir to a fortune. I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars, not yet anyway. And so her question to me is, well, what can you coach me on? She said, I've got more money than you. I said, yeah, you do. And she said, well, what can you coach me on? I want to grow my business. I want to grow my investment portfolio. I want to do this. I said, well, I can't answer that question for you right now, but what I can help you with is mindset. What I can help you with is getting to know you better than you already know yourself. And maybe that'll help you grow your business. And she said, well, I'm going to give you a chance. I'll give you 3 months. We'll see where we go. We worked together for 2 years. I helped her heal so many things from her past. Like she hated her mother. She wanted to kill her mother, basically. And I helped her to heal so many wounds, but her business just took off in leaps and bounds. She was rude, arrogant, hated people, didn't trust anybody, had issues with the family, all this baggage from the past. But when she freed herself of that and she stepped into forgiveness, this joy of life came upon her. And all of a sudden, everything she had meant something rather than she was angry, bitter, and twisted about it all. So yeah, that's an example of how, I knew more than her about helping her to find herself. And that was the key.
Right on. Well, you know what? That's a perfect segue into the next section, which is your guest solo. So tell me about that program. How do we find out more about it?
The Evolve Academy, the Evolve program.
Anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. So look, there's 2 ways I work with people. I've got a group mentoring program, which I love. It's kind of like my baby. It's really low price. It's really affordable. And I do that for a reason, because I want people to make a difference in their lives, to be able to make a difference in their lives. So I offer the tools, the resources, the coaching. I do private or personal coaching in there as well. And there's a different theme every month that we focus on to help people to get where they want to get in their life, be it relationships, be it their health and fitness, be it their business. It doesn't matter, because once you have the right mindset, once you have the right tools, you can do anything you want in your life, in any area of your life. That's called integrate. It's called integrate. And the difference about integrate is that it's helping people integrate wisdom or information, because most of us have done courses, most of us have done some kind of training or study, but the big gap I found is people are not implementing things in their life. They're not implementing the changes that they know that they need to make to get the results that they want to get. So implementing is the big thing. So knowledge is one thing, but it's useless if we're not applying it, if we're not finding out what it can do for us in real time.
Yep.
And so that's what I help people to do, to help them to break through those mindsets that keep them stuck and getting more and more information, feeling more and more overwhelmed, and not actually going forward. In fact, going backwards, because they've got too many decisions to make. There's too much information. Where the hell do I even start? So I made that really simple. So look, if you're interested in finding out more about that, or my Evolve Academy, which is my high-end program where I train people to be coaches, meditation teachers, transformation teachers, then you just go to my website, michaelatma.com. It's all on there. Please come and join me at Instagram or Facebook. I'm more active on Facebook than Instagram, but either way, Michael Atma at Facebook, Michael Atma at Instagram. Please come join me. Come say hello to my community. We work so closely together. I give a lot of my time and energy because I'm in a position now in my life where I have great cash flow. I have a business that actually makes money without me, which is a Richard Branson thing. I studied what he did, and there's a philosophy behind what he does in his businesses. And I studied how he did what he did, and people like him. And I learned how to create a profitable business that works without you. You can actually do that. It works. So I have a business that is run completely by people that manage it for me. And I literally have one conversation with the accountant, once or twice a year about how it's doing. But I have people in place that oversee the entire operation of it. I don't get involved. In fact, it's best I don't, because I wouldn't help.
Yeah.
not anymore, because I'm not in that arena.
Yeah.
I'm creating new businesses now over here that I'm really passionate about. So yeah, that's how you can find me. That's how you can work with me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's great. And I definitely know what you mean. More information is not what we need. We live in the information age. You can learn how to do anything you want, but actually the implementation is the hard part. So I like that you're focusing specifically on that, because that's what probably all of us need, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the key. That's the key. That's the key to success, implementing. The better you get at implementing what you know, what you're learning, the more successful you'll become. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete. It doesn't matter if you want to lose weight. It doesn't matter if you want to get, sleep better. Whatever it is, if you're not implementing the things that you know you need to be doing, then it's not going to happen. It's that simple. There's a famous quote, if it is to be, it's up to me. And that's so true. A lot of us tend to think, oh yeah, it will be better in the future. Things will get better. I'll do it tomorrow. It'll get easier when I feel better. It's not going to happen. If you're not doing it now, it's not happening.
It would be like me watching a guitar course and not playing the guitar. It's not going to work.
I'll start practicing the guitar, next week.
I'll figure that next week. Yeah, I'll remember it all. Right on. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Michael. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on your show. I really enjoyed talking with you. I love it. I can see, we're thinking on the same wavelength here. I love that.
I agree. Great. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. And we'll see you next time with the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.
Mm-hmm.